Hey everybody, it's the Hey Poopy Podcast. What that booty do from poop to pleasure to health. Hosted by me, Ellen.
And me, Dave, two curious people removing the stigma from your stinker. And why do we do this? Because we love laughing, learning all about butts and helping them be the best they can be. And we had an amazing, genius guest today, Dr. Jeff Scott from the company called Happy Colon Foods, which is a game changer in the world of prep for colonoscopies.
Oh, I am super excited about my colonoscopy this year, which, by the way, this is the end of colorectal awareness, cancer awareness month, the month of March, and everybody get your colonoscopy on, but do it with this product because you will be not starving, you won't be sick. He has invented a product that needed to happen decades ago because doctors have been doing the same damn thing for the past 50 years, and it's time for us to actually have a good prep experience.
Yeah, which I know for a lot of people that's kind of the bottleneck. They don't want to do it because of the prep itself. It's so bad. But this thing, I'll give you a little taste. It's got shortbread cookies in it. It's got comfort macaroni and cheese, barbecue pop chips, and a chocolate chip cookie. That's amazing. And the fact that you can just do this, you won't feel all the crazy effects from normal prep work when you're getting a colonoscopy. And you get to hear little cool tidbits from Dr. Scott like this.
One time I have this patient and super nice, but has some developmental delay kind of issues and is in a group home. Very sweet, probably, I think he was in his 30s. And so I started to do the colonoscopy, and I don't even remember what the reason behind why we were doing it at the time, but I put the scope in, and almost all I can see up and down the whole colon is O. Henry candy bar wrappers.
What?
And
the wrappers?
Wrappers. So this was years ago. This was before I had Happy Colon Foods as an option.
Okay.
And so what had happened was he had stockpiled all of these O. Henry candy bars and hidden them away somewhere. And so the people working at the group home wouldn't let him eat. Well, he fixed that, but he had to eat them quickly. And so he just ate them wrapper and all.
He was a great guest, really funny. I guess you have to be when you work in that world. But this guy's put in the research, the time, the effort into creating a product that I think is going to be the next big thing in colonoscopy world.
Yes. And do you want to know more about Dave and I? Head over to heypoopypodcast.com and you can check out everything from our merch, Patreon, cartoons, and even more. And also leave us a fabulous review. I know that one of the people I met yesterday said that they would do so, but do one just like this one. 5 stars. I love all the best podcasts ever. I listen to you all when I go to bed and work nights through my days I'm off from work. So thank you for leaving a review.
Yes. Do more like that. And on to the shit show.
Hey, Poopy, how you doing? Hey, Poopy, how you doing?
I'm just, trying to find a place with like-minded people to talk about like-minded things about me, about poop and stuff.
Hey, Poopy, how you doing? Hey, Poopy, how you doing?
Oh man, what's this right here? Is this a podcast about poop?
Yes, it is. And it's also dump day, that favorite time of the week.
Hey everybody, it's the Hey Poopy Podcast with
Dave
and Ellen, and this is episode 193, but it'll always be number 2 to us, our very favorite number. And we have a very special guest today. We have Jeff from Happy Colon Foods, which I am so very excited about. Thank you,
Yes.
Jeff, so much for being here.
Do you prefer Dr. Scott or Jeff?
Oh, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I should have asked.
We'll vacillate between the two.
Dr. Jeff Scott, or is it Dr. Scott Jeff?
Jeff Scott.
Okay. When it's 2 first names, then my dyslexia gets the best of me.
I know. Talk to my parents. I know.
Damn it. No. But yeah, thanks again for being on the show. Thank you.
Yes. And Jeff, right before we go into what Happy Colon Foods are and all the rest of it, we like to check in with our guests first. So how have you been pooping recently?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yep. Well,
On
you
the
know,
Bristol stool, are you a 4?
I'm a good solid 4.
Woo! We like
Nice.
to call it the perfect 4.
Excellent.
Yeah, I don't know if in the Olympics you would qualify for anything if you kept scoring 4, but it's fantastic.
I know it's such a weird chart. Sometimes it's hard to explain it to people. Like the middle is good.
Yeah, shouldn't it end at 10 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need a revamp.
Yeah.
We'll just go from like ascending, or descending. See which one's better.
Yeah.
But glad you're doing those 4s. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And what about you, Dave? How have you been?
I've been
pooping?
going to the bathroom okay. I've gone I went right before this show.
Exciting.
I have gone, I think 3 times today. So yeah.
Wow.
And they're all,
This feels like a clinic visit, actually.
yeah, right. You're like, okay, that sounds good. How are they? And they were pretty solid in the beginning of the day. And then they get progressively worse. Not worse, but they're just not as formed.
Binding.
But whatever, it's, I go 2 to 3 times a day. So that's usually my range. So
I
that's
went
good.
twice this morning, and my first one was like halfway through my coffee, and it was the kind of poop. It was almost like a ghost poop where I was like, I know I'm sitting here and it felt like a little something happened, but did I even really poop? And I stood up and it was, I'm not joking you, 10 inches long, Bristol 4. I was like, that thing fell out of me so quickly and easily. I was like, God bless. And I've been eating a lot of kiwis recently. My diet's been great because kiwis seem to be really great for laxative. But so, in Ellen fashion, I have an epic check-in. And then 30 minutes later, I did another one, but it was more of a Bristol 5. It was a little more loose in the caboose. But I did not poop at all yesterday because I had jury duty yesterday and I had to get up really, really early and drink my coffee on the way to the subway. And I totally thought that there were moments because it was very stressful yesterday because I was like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. But I was there from 8:30 a.m. till 5:45 p.m. It was a long day of just hoping not to get picked. But I told Dave this already because it is quite funny. And right before they decided on who the jury was going to be, I'm sitting there with about 35 jury people and the judge and all the lawyers and the guy who's in trouble and everybody. And they have us on a microphone in the courtroom. And the judge was asking us questions like, which county do you live in? What do you do for work? What's your education? What do you watch for news? What are your hobbies? So I said all my things. And for hobbies, I said, oh, I like doing crafts, antiquing, going to the beach, and I have a podcast. And the judge goes, what's your podcast about? And I'm on a microphone and I go, it's about buttholes from poop to pleasure to health. And the entire courtroom was like everybody woke up. People were laughing, whipping their head around and staring at me. So I was staring right at the judge. He started laughing. He was like, okay. He's like, let's change the subject. And the other jurors were telling me they were looking at all the lawyers and the lawyers were like, oh.
It's so funny.
I was like, well, you asked.
I'm surprised the judge didn't say you are perfect for this.
Yeah. They're like, actually, we need this.
It was something to do with guns. It was a federal court case. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not interested in this. I have too much work to do. Please don't get me on here. But yeah, it was really, really funny. And then as soon as we walked into the other room, me and all the other jurors, a couple of them that I had been friendly with, we were talking because there's nothing else to do. They take away your phones. They all turned to me and they were like, you've been holding out on us. What the hell? And I was handing out stickers to Hey Poopy
Nice.
Podcast. And I'm like, yeah, listen to the show.
Nice.
And they were like, oh my God, that is hilarious. I was like, I can't believe I mean, I swore an oath to not lie. So I had to tell the truth.
He's like, you could have left it a podcast.
It was pretty epic. So
Nice.
part of my epic
Very funny.
check-in. Advertising the podcast, even at jury duty.
Yeah. Nicely done.
You're welcome. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do. I think your life is surrounded by poo, being a doctor, and then Happy Colon Foods.
Yeah. So I'm a gastroenterologist and I've been in practice for 27 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. And we were just kind of chatting, right before things started about, previous experiences with colon preps, and that's really, the problem with talking to people about colonoscopies. It's the preps. I mean, they suck. They taste
horrible.
bad. Sick. I mean, people, fast or starving. And so it's really kind of crazy that we tell people, this is going to keep you healthy, yet we make them sick to stay healthy. So that's why I started years ago kind of working on this idea of, well, how can I fix these problems? And so that's the basis of Happy Colon Foods, or the company that we started to kind of work on this prep problem. And so the problems of the hunger, well, we've actually known for years that patients could eat, but they have to be very careful what they eat. It has to be low residue foods. Right. There's not a very good definition of what low residue even means. And so no one really figured out how to incorporate that into just a normal, everyday practice. So we've just sort of defaulted to telling people, oh, you have to do clear liquids, but that's not really the case. So then the next thing we thought about was, well, these laxatives. The laxatives that we take today, you mentioned Go Lightly earlier.
Oh my God, it's ironic. It's called Go Lightly.
Terrible name, terrible product. And it's been around for 50 years, and it's still one of the most commonly prescribed preps. Like, what do you know from 50 years ago that is that great today? I mean,
nothing.
If you came in with a lung infection, and I said, well, I got this 50-year-old antibiotic. It's not very good. It might make you sick, but it's cheap. So that's what we're going to use for you.
No, thank you.
Scream and leave.
Yeah.
And so it's nuts to me that we still, use Go Lightly. And then the other preps, there really has not been any tremendous advances in the prep industry in 50 years. It's gotten smaller, but you still have all the same issues with bad taste and making people sick. And so anyway, we've also known that you could use these over-the-counter laxatives, Miralax and Magcitrate and some other things. And Miralax is great because it's tasteless and it dissolves in the liquid. And so anyway, we started working on using Miralax, but with a stimulant, because they work a little differently. And when you put them together, it's a real nice combination. One makes the bowel contract a little bit, and the other one just pulls fluid in. And so we figured out a real nice combination between the two. And then lastly, the thing that's really a difference maker, preps always used to be just one big dose. And then 6, 7, 8 years ago, people started doing what's called split prep, meaning they just took that jug or bottle or whatever, and they split it into 2 doses. And shockingly, people tolerated it better.
Oh.
That's I'm being sarcastic.
No, I know, but I'm also like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So what we did is, well, why don't we do micro doses or intermittent doses? Let's take the same laxative, but let's spread out the dose into these little bitty doses and kind of hide it in the foods and drinks. And that amazingly, has really almost totally gotten rid of all these bad side effects, the bloating and the cramping and all that stuff. So anyway,
but you're really, still cleaning out.
You're still cleaning out, but it is not that volcanic eruption,
Yes.
When you start these other preps, within, about an hour, you better be close to a bathroom.
Oh,
yes.
You can't, your whole day's got to be cleared. I mean, I used Go Lightly once, and it was a nightmare. And the new one I used, like you said, they split it in 2. I forgot what it was called. And again, in the 50 years, all they changed was the flavor. It was like a grape flavor, but it works so fast.
Yeah. So you better be close to the bathroom. The walls better be soundproof.
Yes.
It's a bad experience. So, but if you do little doses of laxatives, think on the flip side, if you had a tasteless Go Lightly and you took little small doses, then the prep comes on much more gradually. It's not that urgency. It's not all that, again, that sort of eruption. And so this prep, you get to eat all day, comfort foods. There's no bad taste. And it's a lot more gentle and none of the side effects.
Wow.
I mean, oh God, I can't find my applause sound effect right now, but you deserve it because, here we go. Hold on. Here we go.
Oh.
God, I so wish I had that. I don't mean to interrupt real quick, but just going on the website, one of the packages you have, I just want to read this to the audience that are possibly going on to get a colonoscopy, which Ellen is doing hers soon. But
Yeah, well, I have my appointment
Okay.
on Thursday to talk to the doctor about making the appointment for the colonoscopy, which might not be till the fall, but at least I'm just turned 45. I'm ready. I'm ready to get in there.
But
so
in this kit, this is like solid. I had to read it like twice because I'm like, there's no way. First of all, there's a maple flavored oatmeal, probiotics, shortbread cookie, comfort macaroni and cheese. First of all, macaroni and cheese, unbelievable. Tasty barbecue pop chips, soothing bouillon, a chocolate chip cookie, which is my favorite. 8 flavored drink mixes, 14 ounces of, I'm assuming this is easy to go. That's the actual stuff. 8 centimeters. And a magnesium citrate and 8 centimeter tablets. Just the fact that stuff's all in one package and you get to actually have an enjoyable meal is so groundbreaking. And I don't know how you're not like in every news story.
That's why I'm here today. So this is our first podcast, and you're right. The only reason it's not everywhere is we put really all our time and investment into just coming up with the product. And so we haven't really had anything left over for the sales and marketing piece. So it's really just about creating awareness.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do now. Because you're right. When we talk to patients, they get it right away. Interestingly, and I'll kind of pull back the brown curtain, we'll call it, on how the GI world works. But the patients see it as a problem, but the practice doesn't necessarily see it as a problem, because when you go visit your gastroenterologist, they have tons of patients. There's no lack of patients. Right. There's too few gastroenterologists, but there's plenty of patients. And so their schedule's full. The schedulers who are talking with you are busy. And so that's really kind of our biggest hurdle is getting the doctor and scheduler, who are so busy, to understand this is a huge problem for patients. And, patients want a good advocate. When they come to see me, they're looking for an advisor, an advocate. And to be a good advocate, what's the 2 things you need? One is you have to be knowledgeable, which means you have to stay on top of, what the literature says. You need to practice evidence-based medicine, which we do. And 2 is you need empathy. Patients need you to know what's the right answer, and they need you to be empathetic to their situation. And
especially when they're dealing with something that could be cancer. Yeah. Like it's already scary.
Yeah, exactly. One story is I had a lady, this was a partner, and this is probably been about 9-10 months ago. But so I was in endoscopy and I was scoping patients, and, I was walking back to the endoscopy lab after talking to one of the patients, and one of my partners grabbed me and said, "Hey, can you talk to this patient real quick?" And so he introduced me. "Hey, this is Dr. Scott. He invented Happy Colon Prep." And she was sitting there, and this is right before her procedure. And she was probably about a 45-year-old lady. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough. I've been so scared of this prep. I've heard terrible things. My family's told me terrible things. And so I've been having these symptoms, but I've been putting this off for several months because I was just so scared." Yeah. And I just want to thank you. And I said, "You're welcome. Let's just think good thoughts." And so about 40 minutes later, I'm walking back up front, and my partner grabs me and said, "Well, unfortunately, that lady had colon cancer." And she's been waiting months just because she's afraid of the prep. And that happens all the time.
Wow.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm nervous. I'm just waited till I was 45 to get the colonoscopy, but I've been nervous about it because I have an autoimmune disease. And if I don't eat for a day, I'm going to feel really awful. Yeah. And so like to know that there's a product out there that like I can still eat and not feel awful is amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just making my fear of the prep because it just seems like Dave's had a couple colonoscopies and he's like, it's not the colonoscopy that's the problem. You're knocked out for it. It's just that 24 hours beforehand that you have to clean out.
Well, I mean, my situation, my second one, you're right. It was like 2 doses spread out over whenever I had to stop eating like solids by like in the morning or something like that. I can just like eggs or something like white bread. And they tell you the whole protocol. You can have like vanilla ice cream, but I just felt like by 1 o'clock in the morning, I was still going to the bathroom and I have to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. And I'm going to bed at like 2 o'clock. Like I'm just running back and forth to the bathroom. It's like a nightmare. And you're hungry and you're tired, you're irritable. By the time you get there, all you want to do is just get knocked out anyway. Like you just want to
It makes you feel bad. And then if you're, a little more elderly or if you're diabetic or you have a problem or that problem, I mean, it just compounds it all. And so, I mean, we've used this kit on pediatric patients. There's a children's hospital in Kansas City that we produce a special pediatric kit for. And,
nice.
And I've personally scoped people in their 90s.
Wow.
And so it'll work across all spectrums.
Can I ask another question about the kit? I'm also gluten-free, but a lot of that has to do with my digestive issues. And I feel like the kit will just, whatever, if I eat something gluten-y that day, I'm just going to be pooping it out anyway. But what are the ingredients to make sure?
We get that question, occasionally. And so what we ask is, are you a biopsy-proven celiac patient? Or are you just gluten sensitive? Mm-hmm. So if you're gluten sensitive, it means, you don't really have an allergy, but it does give you diarrhea, which we say, perfect. That's exactly.
Yeah.
You already get diarrhea. Cool.
Yeah. You're perfect. But,
well, I actually get the opposite. I get constipated when I eat gluten.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I got IBS-C, not the D.
Oh, okay. But if we have someone that's truly a celiac patient, biopsy-proven celiac, then we produce a gluten-free kit for them.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like if I'm just going to be pooping it out, like, that'll be the one day I can eat bread and be okay with it.
Yeah. We've had patients ask us about well, this isn't what I normally eat. I'm normally a very clean eater and this is processed foods. I'm like, well, processed means, that's why it's low residue. That's to make it, low residue. And, or the people ask us about how many calories are in this. I'm like, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, at this point.
Well, that's why eating vanilla ice cream that one day, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're just going to be pooping it right out.
Yeah. So we try to make it as comfortable as we possibly can. And when, we answer phones 24 hours a day. And so that's the other thing. Yes, that's a huge deal for patients. If you have some issue, a question or problem, and when you're doing a traditional prep with a traditional practice and you call, then you're getting the on-call person. Well, sometimes it's difficult to get called back. And matter of fact, one of the stories, so again, we take calls 24 hours a day on our patients. And so one of our folks that answers phones gets a call from a lady and she starts in, oh my gosh, I am so sick. I am throwing up and I'm feeling terrible. And our answering person said, oh my gosh, we don't ever get those calls. What's going on? And she said, well, I did the first bottle and I'm supposed to start on the second bottle now. And I'm sick. And she goes, well, wait a second. We don't really have a first and second bottle. And she said, oh, well, it's not your prep. It's another prep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She said, the practice offered me your prep and this other prescription one. And the other prescription one was, quote, covered. Now, it still cost me $75, but it was covered. And now I'm sick and I've been calling their office and I can't get a call back. And it's 9 o'clock at night and I don't know what to do, and I don't know whether to show up tomorrow morning or is it. And so we're like, well, or, she said, I am so sorry, but we really can't give you an answer. We just take care of, patients doing Happy Colon Foods prep. And so anyway, I think that is a huge benefit to patients that they can always pick up a phone, call, and they're going to get a person.
Wow. I really think you are onto something here and it's going to just take off like gangbusters because something like this, especially like you said, if you're doing all the scopes or actual stuff and you have someone else scheduling this thing, that should be like a pull down thing on their menu. It's going to send you this. It just should be like an automatic thing. It just pops into their like toolbox and it just shows up at your house and you're ready to go. Cause this is incredible. And the fact you're right. If you have patients that are really nervous about doing a colonoscopy because of the prep part, which I know sucks, but it's like, if that's the thing holding you back, like this is like a no brainer, like what you guys have to offer. So,
yeah, I mean, experience certainly tells me that over 27 years, actually 30 years, if I include my fellowship, but there's studies that also showed the same thing. They, ask, people that have not had their screening colonoscopy, why? And they gave a variety of reasons, but the number one reason was anxiety over the prep. Wow. And so it drives me crazy when we talk to a practice and they say, well, we're okay with our prep. And I'm like, you may be okay with your prep. Okay with the prep. And so it drives us nuts whenever we hear, patient or practices say that. And they just get so complacent. And again, they
it's like interview your patients, ask them how they're doing about it, give them an option.
I mean, I imagine, like you said, too, for so long, that's the only option or the very few options in that world. And then the fact that, some places are so hesitant about updating or changing that. But it seems like it's a simple enough thing. I mean, it's not, you're still getting the same.
Yeah, it's not something like, you're not just like making this up. You're a doctor who's done studies about this. You're not just like throwing some food at people and being like, hey, this should work. Like, yeah, I mean, I know during my colonoscopy, I'm most definitely getting this. My grandmother died of colon cancer in the early 80s. And my mother said that she's been putting off one of her colonoscopies, which she's supposed to be doing it more often. She's in her 70s. And because she has a history, and I'm totally going to send her this the minute and be like, you got to make your appointment. Stop making excuses, especially like COVID was a big excuse, which you probably have heard that. Like people couldn't get colonoscopies during 2020 and now everybody's backed up because of it, I guess. So yeah,
there's a lot of great double entendres there.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I was like, did I mean that?
Well, that also kind of goes into our name. We wanted something that was a little more, lighthearted and not so scary. We're trying to destigmatize the colon prep process and tell patients, gosh, you don't have to be so scared. I know what it's been like for half a century, but this is different. This is totally different. So
wait, so has colonoscopies only been around for about 50 years? Did just people suffer with colon cancer before that?
So they were, the scope was kind of worked on in the 60s and 70s, and that's kind of when it started with 70s and Go Lightly. So that's when Go Lightly was developed. And, I've talked with my wife and I said, it's kind of like the Russian doll, is that if you take this doll, the head of this doll off, then there's another doll right inside of it that's smaller. And so through all these years, preps have really not changed dramatically. They've just gotten smaller. Yeah. But they're basically still all kind of about the same.
And you just invented the Barbie doll. You don't need a Russian doll anymore. You just got a great Barbie. Yeah.
It's like the luxury car of prep. Like you have. It's also, I think too, it's like for someone who has had colonoscopy before, the second I saw the site and was reading about it, I got it immediately. So you just know, like, I can understand maybe people that never had one before, but if you've had this before and you see that instantly, I'm like, oh, my next one is 100% I'm getting this. So
right. So when we're talking to patients, that's exactly what we get. But when we go to a practice and we introduce it to them, they're like, well, I don't know about this. And like, well, we published a large study a few years ago. We've got over 30,000 patients. We've got all these testimonials. We have, meta-analysis of low residue diets. We've got all this information, but sometimes they just say, nah.
Of course. Until they have to actually get one done. They're like, you know what? Hey, where's that happy colon food site? Actually, on your site, just a quick question. You have, people can go check it out at shop happycolonfoods.com. But right. I noticed you have 2 food kits, one with the actual laxative and one, I guess you get your own laxative, or is it something the doctor would recommend, or is it?
Yeah, a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. And so there are lots of studies that show low residue diet with different types of laxatives still gives you an equal or superior cleanse with better patient compliance and better patient satisfaction. So I think the kit that we've come up, the food kit, the meals, the drinks with the laxatives is the easiest one to do. But if we can't convince you or your doctor, to do this total
Protocol.
kit, then you could still do whatever laxative that your doctor wants you to do. But I think having a low residue diet that's been standardized is still real helpful. One, obviously gets rid of hunger. And then two, one of the reasons that these newer preps don't work sometimes is that patients just don't drink enough fluid with them.
Yep. We talk about that on the show all the time, how water is the most important.
Yeah. So if you talk to prep experts, Doug Rex is one of our leading prep experts in the country, and he'll still tell you, you still need to drink about 3 liters of fluid to make those effective. And so if you take whatever prescription prep your doctor wants you to take, but you have this food kit with these colorless drink mixes, I think it encourages patients still to drink a lot of fluids. And so I think the preps can be equal or superior. And so that's why we have that other option of the food only option. And to what we've also tried to do, and this may change as time goes by, is we've tried to kind of get the okay of the physician and the practice, even though we don't necessarily need that. And so if you go on our site and you just try to order the kit, it'll ask for a doctor code. And so the reason we do that is we go all over the country and we talk to these practices. And if they say, yes, we would like to put this in our list of options, then we give every doctor a unique code. And then all that the practice has to do is when they're scheduling the patient, they give the patient that code and they, tell them when their procedure is and et cetera.
Oh, cool.
So the patients are the ones who actually go online and order or call our toll-free number. And if they, if they use that code, then we know their doctor has said, okay, this is we're this prep.
Oh, that's good.
That's amazing.
But there's nothing prescription in there. So do we really need that? You could debate it, but we're trying to, also appease the medical community as well and not force things down their throat. Again,
that's probably good for tracking too. Like later on, this data stuff. I mean, that's probably good to have anyway. So
exactly.
Amazing. Well, my next colonoscopy is not for a little while, but I'm definitely be like, woo. Yeah. Just so I can try it. I'm like, I'm just getting one.
Yeah, actually, I was hanging out with a friend of mine a week ago, and she was telling me, she was like, I've been pooping only nuggets out recently. Can you help? And I go, water. You need more water. And she was like, it's just that? And I was like, yes, trust me, water and fiber, you just got to up both of those things in your diet and you'll be pooping better. And she's like, oh, I guess I'm not drinking enough water. I was like, yeah, water. So, and you have to do that with everything. Even if like we've had products on that are like, it's basically like psyllium husk, and people don't know that you can't just take psyllium husk pills and think that poop's going to happen.
No, if you do a lot of that with no water, you will get impacted.
Yes, completely. So water is the most important part to all of it.
Yeah. And then
I think across the board, it's a problem. Like people just don't drink water. I mean, like in general.
Well, I'd be the first to say I don't drink enough water. And so I'm a big fan of taking a little dose of Miralax every single day. And I'm trying to get better with water. My wife is a very healthy eater. And so I'm doing better. But that little dose of Miralax with the fiber. And so like a fiber cereal, little dose of Miralax in your bottle of orange drink or something. I think a great combo.
And that's why you're making those Bristol 4s.
Yeah. Right. That's you're peeking behind the curtain or the brown curtain, as you said earlier. How much Miralax? I'm just curious, how much Miralax we talking like?
About 1 capful.
Okay. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, because all it does is it pulls water into your stool. So it's not a stimulant. It's not habit forming. It's very safe. And so I think that's a great way to do it. I've got a partner that they use like magnesium tablets, which kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Well, but I think something that retains some of that water, because a lot of people, drink water, but then they just pee it right out. And so if you take something like that, like a Miralax, it forces the water to stay in your stool. Colace is fine if you have very, very mild constipation. But if it's a little bit more than that, I think you need to up your game and do a little Miralax every day.
Oh. Yeah, I want to see if you're ever out of kiwis or something like that.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm making notes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned kiwi. I read an article, probably has been within the last year, yes, about kiwi. And so here lately, yes, I've been eating some kiwi as well. So.
Yeah, I've been eating one kiwi a day for at least a month now, and I've been making these gorgeous poops. So, and literally, it's so funny. I ran out of kiwis the night before jury duty. So maybe that's what also constipated me. I didn't have the kiwi. Yeah.
Gotta get this kiwi train.
Yeah, it's good. I am not mad at it. Okay. And they're delicious. So.
Yeah, they're tasty. So makes it better.
Yeah, we had a colon therapist on the show a couple months ago, and she was telling us about people who get laxative dependent, where they can't poop without it. But Miralax, you're saying, is not like that. It doesn't have.
Right. It's the stimulants that have senna and cascara in them, aloe vera. Those can be habit forming. And so those are the ones that I tell people that if they want to use them occasionally, and occasionally is, I know, kind of a gray term, but, once a week or, every few weeks, that's okay. But, I've had people that do, 6 or 7 senna a day.
Jesus.
And, that's
wow.
That's where you get it.
The colon therapist we interviewed, she said her mother was doing 50 laxatives a day. Yeah. She was like completely addicted. And I was like, no. Which, just a funny side note, a good friend of mine texted me today that she did research about going to see a colon therapist today. And she went and saw this woman, and she was telling her about the podcast, Dave, and it ended up being Casey, who we interviewed.
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
She's like, I've been on that podcast.
Small worlds. Small worlds.
And I was like, why are you doing research on who you should see? Just ask me. I've already done the research for you.
Yeah. It's called the show.
Uh-huh.
And has anyone ever mentioned what the colon looks like on the inside whenever people are doing a lot of laxatives?
No, we would love to know.
Yeah. So people that do a lot of senna, cascara, aloe vera, they develop this condition called melanosis coli. Oof. And so when you are doing the colonoscopy and you put the scope in the colon, the lining, instead of being nice and pink, it can be totally black.
Oh,
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is like just a dark tunnel, and it absorbs all the light, and so it's hard to see anything.
What? So the actual lining is black, or is it something that dyes it? How does that work?
It's the lining of your colon picks up a component of those stimulant laxatives and deposits it in the lining, and so it actually doesn't directly injure the lining of your colon per se. Now, the laxatives will cause problems with the nerves to your colon, but that melanosis coli, that coloring, is just a sign that people do laxatives. So if I do a colonoscopy and I see that, and it can be mild or severe, and I come out and I'll ask the patient, what do you take to help you stay regular? Then a lot of times they'll say, I take this colon health something formula. And I said, well, that has a stimulant laxative in it. And they're like, I didn't know that. And so we have to actually taper them off of it slowly.
Yeah.
You can't stop it cold turkey. But
well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, how do you get somebody to not be dependent on laxatives?
Yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll say, instead of every day doing 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever you do, let's cut that down first. And then if we can get you down at a low enough dosage, then every other day, I want you to stay off of that. And I also have already put them on a dose of like a Miralax or Magcitrate or magnesium of some sort, not Magcitrate usually. Or, we also have some prescription alternatives as well. And so it's really kind of finding a combination of things that works for that person that is simple, not habit forming, and reasonably, cost effective. Some prescriptions like that can be really costly. And so just kind of do best that you can.
I'm just amazed at like how people get addicted to that stuff. I mean, it's like shocking. Yeah. And the fact that it even caught me, like, if you just have a photo up in your practice, just like, here's what the hell, it's like the cigarettes, like healthy colon. Here's one.
Yeah, here's a colon, addicted. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy
That's
that
wild.
you can see it like that. It's like Pepto-Bismol that sometimes gives you a black tongue. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, and Pepto will turn your stool black, but it doesn't affect your colon lining at all. But it's stimulant laxatives that you got to stay away from.
Wow.
Good note. Thanks for that tip.
Yeah.
I mean,
not like we're going in and looking at people's colons.
Yeah. Also, I'm not like plowing down, chugging down like tons of like Senna and stuff like that. But yeah.
Well,
I mean, I would take a Swiss Chris once in a while if I was backed up, but I'm also like more of a suppository or enema type person. So.
Yeah, and enemas are safe, and suppositories are generally safe, and so I certainly recommend those to patients. But trying to get to the root of the problem, and looking at what medications are you on, or is there something that's causing the problem? Checking your thyroid. Is there any kind of anatomical problem? So all kinds of reasons. If you had surgery on your abdomen or bowel, that you could have strictures. There's colon cancer, obviously. So lots of things to think about.
Wow. Crazy. Whew. Should we get into some? I'm just like thinking about like what that looks like now, the dark colon. Oh,
I know. Maybe we could Google a picture.
Yeah. Oof. I don't look at that right now, but we should get into some questions.
I mean, you've given us so much that I don't have to ask some of the more regular questions. I know I sent them to you, but
plus you're like an expert.
Yeah,
you're a true expert in all this.
I know. I feel like some of them would almost be insulted, but we love asking every single one of our guests, what kind of toilet paper do you use, and do you put it over the roll, over, under? Because that's just a very hot topic.
Oh yeah. So I don't know what the brand is. I know it's the softest one. I'm a big proponent of that. And it has to be over the top, right?
That's what all the data points that way. I mean, there's everybody on the show pretty much
Not
says
everybody.
It's a lot. She's downplaying a little bit. It's a huge amount of people that overs. That's fine. Over.
And I have to ask you, just because you're a doctor and we've had a couple doctors on the show, I mean, do you have any crazy stories? Like, have you done a colonoscopy and you found something up there that you were like, wow, how and why did that get in there? Or like, have you had somebody who didn't prep very well and you were like, no, you have to come back? I'm dying to know any crazy stories.
I have more stories than you have time in your podcast.
Oh, bring them.
So I'll just tell you a couple. So one time I have this patient and super nice, but has some developmental delay kind of issues and is in a group home, very sweet, probably, I think he was in his 30s. And so I started to do the colonoscopy, and I don't even remember what the reason behind why we were doing it at the time, but I put the scope in, and almost all I can see up and down the whole colon is O. Henry candy bar wrappers.
What?
And
the wrappers?
Wrappers. So this was years ago. This was before I had Happy Cooking Foods as an option.
Okay.
And so what had happened was he was known in the group home for having a really vigorous appetite. And so I was putting people on, clear liquid diets, not letting them eat. And so he had stockpiled all of these O. Henry candy bars and kind of hidden them away somewhere. And so the people working at the group home wouldn't let him eat. Well, he fixed that, but he had to eat them quickly. And so he just ate them wrapper and all. So
what happened? Did you have to
problems at all? I mean, he, got rid of them the natural way, but it was some probably one of the more interesting pictures of the colon I think I've ever taken of somebody.
Completely.
Oh my God.
And that kind of
is-
defeats the colonoscopy. You're like, I can't see any polyps when
Yeah.
there are wrappers in the way.
Yeah, I couldn't, there was a lot I couldn't see. And then, actually, we have time to tell you two more.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
please.
Yeah,
We're
we
here
have
for
tons
it.
of time.
Okay, so there was a good friend of mine that we were like best buddies, and so he said, I'm going to have a chili cheese dog and this and that before I show up, and you better have a hazmat suit on before you do my colonoscopy.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I mean,
Defeats
Why?
the purpose.
yeah, no, he was a funny guy, and so I'm like, okay, I'll be ready. And so he shows up, and he's just a bigger than life kind of character, real gregarious, real fun guy. And so first thing is we push him back to the room, and he's telling jokes. This is back in the before we in the pre-endoscopy area, and cracking all the nurses up. And so we wheel him into the actual endoscopy room, and I had about 8 nurses line their chairs up and have all bags of popcorn like they were just going to watch like a movie. And he had the biggest laugh about that. And what he also didn't know was I had stayed up that night and gotten my kids the books that I read them at night, their kids' books, and I had cut out some figures. One was a little mole with a miner's hat and a pick that was picking, and another one was a Barbie doll that had some very interesting clothing on. So during the colonoscopy, which actually turned out okay, there was no big problems. But during the colonoscopy, I took a picture of his colon like we typically do with the colonoscope that we would show the patient after the procedure. Well, I took that picture, and then I laid those pictures on top of his picture and took another picture so it looked like they were in his colon.
Oh my God.
And so afterwards I said, okay, there was no serious problems, there was no cancers, no polyps, everything looked good. I said, but there was a couple of things I have a little concern about. And I showed him those pictures with the Barbie doll and the little mole in his colon. And oh my gosh, he died laughing. He told that story to everybody that he knew.
Oh, I'm sure that's awesome. I wish he did my colonoscopy.
Well,
wow.
Yeah. And then one of the more unusual things I've seen was there was someone that was incarcerated, and their way of getting out of incarceration temporarily was to swallow things. And so I think by the time I had saw this person, they had already had like 70 some odd endoscopies and
God.
surgeries, but they got out of,
Yeah.
they got out of
They had to go to the doctor. Yeah.
Right, and go to the hospital if it was serious enough. And so he had figured, I need to make this serious enough to get into the hospital to have a longer stay, but not so serious that it would kill me. And so we x-rayed him because we knew his story. And sure enough, there was all kinds of things over around at the start of his colon and we kept x-raying him every day. So he kind of had to stay in the hospital, never passed him. And so I went in and removed it, and it was nails and razor blades.
Oh my God.
Wait, what was the second one?
Nails, screws, and razor blades.
Oh my God.
How did he even swallow those?
This guy was an expert.
Oh my God.
And so I think he spent more time in the hospital year by year than he did in incarceration. But
Wow.
He's like, worth it.
yeah, I guess totally worth it. So,
Whoa.
Pulling razor blades out of colon and anal area is not the easiest thing. So
No, I can imagine. Wow, that is, I guess, do you learn that in a medical school? Like, there's going to come a time.
they don't tell you that in medical school.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah, we had another doctor on who she was like, I got into this to help people with cancer. I did not know how many foreign objects I was going to pull out of people's butts. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's there's a lot of crazy stories.
Foreign objects that people sat on by accident. It's
Yeah.
like, no,
No. Well, it's that, or it was some dude.
Yeah, some dude. Oh,
How did this get up there? Like some dude, and then some story.
I bought this book put out by 3 doctors, and all it is this X-rays of patients of crazy things.
Yeah,
I mean, like just insane stuff. So, there is a
We
book.
also had a dominatrix on who she said that one of her clients was prepping for a colonoscopy, and he's like, "Hey, I'm so cleared out, you can put anything up me." So she put grapes, uneaten grapes, up his butt and had him like pop them out. And I guess she didn't keep count, because when he did the colonoscopy the next day, the doctor said, "How did you have uneaten grapes in your colon?"
well, another story-
Undigested.
Again, I got a lot of them, but another story is I had a woman with pelvic pain, and she had gynecology evaluations, et cetera, didn't find anything. So like, well, let's do a scope. So we do a colonoscopy, and I put the scope in and just go about 4 or 5 inches. So it's down pretty low. And there was this bar across from one wall of her colon to the other wall of the colon. And I'm like, I have never in my life seen anything like this. And I'd done several thousand by that time. And so I looked real closely, because you can magnify with this scope tremendously. And it looked like it was a little tapered on one end. So I grabbed forceps and I kind of gently teased that out of the wall and then pulled, and it was actually a toothpick.
Oh,
And it had got all the way down. So I asked her, did you at any point in your life, we don't know how many years this had been there, swallow a toothpick? She'll, no, I don't ever remember it. And I don't think it was put up, retrograde.
yeah.
So,
Was it a plastic one? Because I would think a wooden one maybe would digest.
No, it was a wooden toothpick, but it was,
Wow.
it was a good inch into one wall and about a half the other wall. And it actually caused an inflammation. As soon as I got it out, within days, she said, "I'm great. I'm simply fully gone."
It's like having a splinter in your colon.
Yeah.
Your colon. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my goodness.
So you,
And I can't believe she didn't remember it.
when you do scopes, you must just be like nothing must shock you anymore. So you're like, oh yeah, there we go. It's another, toothpick.
Well, that's why I tell people, if you're going to have a colonoscopy, try to get the best trained person you can, because you never really know what you're going to run into. And if it's a routine colonoscopy, then there's, lots of different professionals that could do it. But otherwise, try to get someone well trained. And, the stuff that we do, it would be illegal if you were in a back alley doing it to somebody.
Oh yeah.
People are paying me to. So,
I wish you could do my colonoscopy.
Oh my God.
Well-
Wow. That is,
I'm dying to know what's up there.
yeah. The camera will tell.
The camera will tell.
Yeah, let's look at the tape. Oh my God.
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Dave, do you want to go into the game?
Yeah.
Do you want to go into news?
We'll do a little quick game. It'll be really fast. It's a game we like to call
Shitty choices.
Shitty choices. So these are really horrible choices. It's almost embarrassing when we have a professional on. I'm always like, these are so like juvenile. But okay, I don't know if we did this one already. I think we didn't. But would you rather pee out a ping pong ball or poop out a bowling ball?
Oof.
oh my gosh.
In the world, look, in this shitty choice world, these two things can happen. Obviously, they don't happen in real life, but
Yeah.
those are your options.
Oh, wow. You're right. Terrible options. I think I'd go with the ping pong ball.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one too. I have to go with the ping pong ball as well. It's a little smaller. Just like the bowling ball is just. Oh, Ellen,
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
Same, but it's like literally the worst constipated poo or kidney stone. Like they both don't sound like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have dug out impactions that were not as big as a bowling ball, but were softball size. And
What?
Nobody was happy. The patient,
my
me, nurse, nobody.
Wait, you have to back up. Was the patient awake for
Yeah.
this?
Is that a double entendre again?
I need to know more about this. So, like, So the person obviously was terribly constipated, and then you like probably did some kind of x-ray to find out, and then what happened?
Right. So that's a fecal impaction, and there's no good way to get it out other than just taking your fingers and literally digging.
Oh my God.
But it's usually like clay. It's really firm and hard. As you can imagine, getting one or two fingers, in there and trying to dig something out like that. If the patient is asleep, obviously that's a much better situation, but not always doable because sometimes it takes a long time to do this. And
Jesus.
so yeah,
You're doing God's work.
That is wild.
Dr. Jeff Scott, you are doing God's work
Thank you.
on so many levels. I am like beyond shocked, impressed, and everything. Yeah.
You're
Wow.
like a gem of a guest, by the way.
Yes. Oh my Lord.
We have one quick news story, which actually is very apropos for what we've been talking about. So I'm going to play this little news bumper and then we'll get into it. So this came from Metro UK. Metro's like a free paper that started, I think, in the city, but in New York here, but I think it's everywhere pretty much. Anyhow, this story, the title starts off with vicar hospitalized with potato up his bum.
Oh, Lordy.
So a vicar, for those who don't know, is like a clergyman. That's all. But this particular gentleman was a 50-year-old clergyman working in Sheffield, and the Sheffield North General Hospital were like kind of confounded when they saw this guy come in, and he went to undergo surgery, and there's a giant potato in his backside. And then the explanation was, this is cracking me up. Quote, he explained to me quite sincerely, he had been hanging curtains naked in the kitchen when he fell backwards onto the kitchen table and onto the potato.
Nope, doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Elaborate stories that always involved some mishap or some dude.
Yeah. Well, this was just a slip while he was hanging some curtains in the kitchen. And this was naked. And then so from this is an older story, but I just thought it was so funny. There was a whole hashtag called #Vicar with potato up his bum, and it went viral it was crazy. So people just like were tagging like, this is crazier, and then like, I can't believe it's got its own hashtag. And I went on Twitter and hashtagged it, and like the amount of people respond, it's just like thousands of responses.
Oh, did anybody comment that there is a priest hanging a curtain? So that means the window is not covered yet, naked.
Yes.
Yeah, that would confirm me also.
I mean, right then and there, we got problems.
Oh, yeah.
Potato is the least of your problem.
Right. That's pre-potato. So
that's exactly. It's not peeled. Probably wasn't even scrubbed off or anything. Can we just talk to a quick note to the church? Can we just let these men, these priests, just let them have relationships? Because I'm not saying he wasn't hanging curtains, but I'm just going to assume that was a lie.
I just love also like when he's like, crap, now I got to go to the hospital. What is the story I'm going to tell?
Okay. Curtains. That sounds about right.
Quickly, he rips one of his curtains down.
Yeah, exactly. You can see it. Took pictures. Like, well, anyway, with that ridiculous story, Dr. Jeff Scott, thank you so much for being on our show. I am so happy that you created a product that I feel will be like taking over the whole world of colonoscopies, because really it's something that I wish I had when I had mine, because it just makes it so much easier and just tolerable. So thank you.
When I have my doctor's appointment on Thursday, I am so bringing this up, and I'm going to make sure that I can get it for my colonoscopy.
Well, tell your doctor or your scheduler, who you're talking to, that you absolutely want to do this, and that look at the data. Again, practice evidence-based medicine, have some empathy for what I'm about to go through, and then we'll support you however we can.
Yes.
Fantastic. And I know I mentioned before, but once again, please tell the audience where they can find your product.
Yeah, happycolonfoods.com. We've also, once you're on the website, there's a toll-free number that you can call and ask questions. But again, don't hesitate to just speak plainly, clearly what you want to your physician or your scheduler, nurse, whoever you're talking to. I think that's the main message I get, or that I tell people, is just tell them to please, look at it and make it an option for their patients.
Excellent. Yes, advocate for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Patients should be empowered.
Yes.
Wise words.
Yep.
With that, thanks for laughing and learning everything but with us.
And happy pooping, everybody, and enjoy your butthole.
For more info, go to heypoopypodcast.com or email us at heypoopypodcast@gmail.com. You can send in show ideas, guest requests. Check us out on Twitter at heypoopy, Instagram at heypoopypodcast, TikTok, heypoopypodcast, and our awesome new Facebook fan page. Go check it out at Hey Poopy Podcast. We're also on Discord at Hey Poopy Dumps, or you can contact us at our new awesome hotline, 203-998-5579.
Hey Poopy Podcast is brought to you by Perfect for Entertainment. Produced by Dave and Ellen. Edited by Dave. Executive producers Stormy Leather. Theme song by Jordan Perlson. Hey Poopy!